Oh, literally the output box wouldn't open up.
Oh yeah, Glenn. Pete. Oh, we gotta start the show. We'll talk about that later.
All right, we should be live and on the air finally on YouTube and Twitch. Double checking YouTube right now. There we have it. So we are live and on the air. Welcome everyone to the Foolish Tech Show. It is a lovely, finally Friday evening. We're here mainly to provide you with support and answer any questions about our products and services. If you do have any of those, feel free to jump over to foolishtechshow.com, and we have a couple ways you can join our IRC chat from there. We'll be more than happy to interrupt whatever we may be talking about to focus on those types of issues instead. Otherwise, we will just spend the time talking random shop talk here and fill the dead air, and you're welcome to participate in that as well. Looks like we got quite a crew in our IRC chat. Looks like we got Beavis, CC James, Futures Tech Ian, Glenn, and Phoenix. And Phoenix has got quite a few links for us already. But before we get into that, how is everybody's Friday going? That good, huh?
No, it's going. It's
Kind of
going good.
glad it's getting close to over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just got one final hour. It's been an interesting week. It always is here. I believe we have a news about another release of CryptoPrevent out, and it might be a good idea to shout that out.
Yep. So version 8.0.2.6 is out, and it fixes a couple things. I guess I could get you the post here about it. That one. That'll do it.
Oh, Futures. Quark is jumping ship. I assume you mean he's leaving. I guess earlier than the rest of you. You don't mean anything otherwise, do you?
Oh, the rest of the crew is already out, and Glenn had 3 calls out into the temps of over 40 degrees. And that's just above freezing in American.
In America, no. He's talking about Celsius. That's that's a very high temperature.
104. Good grief. Why
Yeah.
do you say that? Why do you got to put it all in code?
Wow. Global warming for you, folks. As reported by Glenn.
It's not global warming. It could just be how hot it gets in Australia. Australia hasn't always been known as the
And Australia has a huge desert
of the world.
Australia has a huge desert, from what I understand, so I'd imagine it would get pretty hot there, especially during the summertime.
Wow, everybody's got large PST files they're dealing with. Glenn had an 18 gig one he told us about earlier in the chat. Eric and Cherie had to deal with a 30 gig PST file.
Oh, joy.
I have a client that they have numerous 20 to 30 gig PST files.
I thought they didn't work after 4.
No, okay. Well, I mean that they did correct that issue, and there are technically the 64-bit version of Outlook should not contain any limitations whatsoever on the PST type, except maybe some that they internally built in. But it's not the most efficient structure to store data that large in it. Does anybody reports any performance issues with it? Because usually it's performance that's the problem. PST issue come up so often. In my experience, I every year, no matter how far we thought we got away from PSTs, there would inevitably be droves of individuals who would still rely upon them for their mail constantly, and you'd have to compact it and or otherwise maintain it to achieve either functionality at all or performance. Anybody?
The only performance issues I saw with those large PST files were if there were a ton of emails in the inbox.
Okay, but if it was properly sorted out amongst folders, it may not be an issue.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, some people don't decide to sort their mail at all, and so would just use their inbox for everything. So I'm assuming that's what I was seeing in the circumstances that I ran across. But thanks for corroborating that. And Glenn mentions he's already in Saturday. Of course, Glenn lives in the future time. But he reported that in the 20s down there that it reached 110 or over 110. Anyone encounter the Outlook folder excess issue? I guess, Glenn, that's what Proctor was just mentioning. And yeah, I trimmer is always better, of course. So yeah, sure, shrink it to what you can. But did you have direct experience with the folder excess, and did you ever resolve a performance issue by moving things out of the inbox? Oh, you mean too many folders? I thought you meant excess files in a particular folder. Oh, geez, wow.
Wow, over 500 folders.
500. I mean that's like looking. Well, why bother? That's a longer list of emails. Possible.
So I was about to say is like, got a new email? I'll put that in this folder. Got a new email? I'll put that in this new folder. Got
File number 472.
This folder, and they're all named new folder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, so
sounds like my grandma.
CC James has a more pertinent question, I believe, than this PST stuff we're discussing. He's asking about Cryptz or CryptXXX. Give me a moment to look up my research on that. I'll see if I have something on that. Okay, so don't know if anything's changed since I did this initial research on it, but let me see here. It looks like it's sticking executables in its app data folder, in the app data folder, and local low, local app data, and yeah, just app data. I would imagine, unless it's evolved since I looked at it, we have actual hashes inside of CryptoPrevent to flag that with a folder watch or the program filter, the execom filter, and we also, of course, has our base default level of protection should cover all those locations that I just mentioned.
All of the posts I'm seeing on it are from like 2016, like around May and June. Kaspersky had an unlocker for it, but I'm guessing it's a new version.
Yeah, so there, version 1 and 2, there are ways to decrypt it. It's the Rano decryptor looks like it'll do that. That's apparently a Rano variant. Let me see if I have any other information. Have you checked for anything recent on? Oh, I'll check. Do you? I'm assuming it's being spread through spam. In your case, CC James. And he's talking about version 3. Yeah, so there's no decryptor for version 3 from at least what I saw. Excuse me. And did you say Cryptz?
Kaspersky is offering to decrypt version 3 for free.
Oh,
There's
are
an
they?
article on that.
Great. Could you post that?
This article actually came out December 20th, 2016.
I must have missed that. I'm going to add that to our information. Thank you.
Just reading over the article to see if there is anything specific.
I did have a newer link to, I thought, to a decryptor here. Let me see. Okay. Yeah, so they looks like they updated, Kaspersky updated their Rhino decryptor to also do version 3, and I've updated our internal information to reflect that as well now. So great, thank you for that update. Apparently, I didn't notice that come through. I must have missed it around the holiday times there. Try to stay on top of that.
Yeah, they say that the this utility should have it.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to. That's linked off of that post that I put.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, so there should be a decryptor for version 3 as of December. Let us know if that's what you were looking for. Or if Phoenix is saying he's got a version you can test with, so that could be an option too.
Yeah, Phoenix, I thought I had an earlier sample of either version 1 or 2, probably version 2, I would imagine, looking at the dates. But if you could get me version 3, any either Phoenix or CCC, James, if you don't mind, you can do that pretty easily by going
CryptoPrevent or QuickHash.
Let's see. I think that'll work. Right, that link works, right? Yeah. And yeah, you can submit to us with that. But as I said, at least based upon the analysis that I was reading, it should be fairly easily preventable using CryptoPrevent.
Cool. Well, let's see. Thanks for that, CC James. Hopefully that will help in some ways. Phoenix did have quite a few links here, so let's see what we got for him. 2 were arrested for hacking Washington CCTV cameras. I think they were arrested in the UK, if I'm not mistaken. I had looked at another article on that. Let's see if I can find that one. I believe they had mentioned that they were arrested in the UK. I'm not finding the original. Oh wait, yeah, here we go. Yeah, they were arrested in London. Yeah, you did the hacker news, so here's the bleeping computer runoff of it. So yeah, there's some interesting news on that. Then Phoenix also posted about the radio station takeovers. And Michael, did you hear about this? Radio stations across the country have been hacked playing this song. Don't really care about the song or what's going on there, but the interesting part is it's low power FM transmitters.
Yeah, I did vaguely read this, but you know, that's not gonna go very far. So I don't know that the impact was anything more than in very localized areas where this might have occurred, and it was also the result of very specific use of a specific piece of equipment, I think, too, that allowed them to accomplish this.
Yeah, there was one that, it was funny, I don't remember exactly which article I read about it, but apparently oh no, it was actually just straight off this Slashdot portion here, but the Barrix told its products owners in 2016 EX streamer devices openly connected to the internet are incredibly vulnerable to having their remote login passwords discovered and systems compromised. The company recommends using a full 24-character password and placing any live internet connections behind firewalls or VPNs. So yeah, apparently these people were just hooking things straight up to the internet and using default passwords, and that's why we got botnets, but that's just another thing. So I'm just posting all the links that came off this Slashdot thing here as well. But we've been interested in SDR and radio signals and things like that, and that's what really caught my eye about it.
Yeah, it's but I mean, it's only a matter of time, and this is basically what happened. This was reported. The security, the company involved in it didn't do anything or release any updates to, mitigate that, or they couldn't because of a design flaw for whatever reason. And yeah, they took advantage of it, and at least they took advantage of the ones that didn't make any attempts to
adjust or
harden.
Change things.
Yeah. And so even if you had a completely vulnerable device, you stick it behind an appropriate firewall and you should theoretically be okay. And there might be other ways to pipe that data out of it, and still, there are mitigations to these things. And just inaction, not doing anything, and not being aware of the security vulnerabilities of the devices you're using, especially in a business scenario, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. But speaking on the Trump thing, Ultra Spiritual Life had a new episode about Trump and the Illuminati rising, and he does make some very, very good points. So you might want to be careful.
We don't want this to be too political. This is going to be a rough year, I'm sure, or more, for everyone. So I'd like to switch topics back to something that may be more relevant.
It's going to be way more rough than it used to be. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah. So
this is going to suck because I don't want to talk about politics. But by the way, everybody's going to hell now. I don't want to tell anybody what my politics are. Okay, Michael. By the way, that happens a lot.
Yeah, sure. But at any rate, they're finally kicking.
I like how you thought it's only going to be a year.
Well, I know, right? I think by that time it'll either all be great or it'll all be hell. So one way or the other, we'll see. Anyway, it looks like Gmail running under like really old versions of Chrome on XP and Vista, and they're gonna potentially limit its use. It doesn't look like they're cutting it off, but it looks like they're going to be forced to basic HTML versions of those pages, and that's 53 and older. Chrome version 53 and over, and I think 49 was the last version to support XP.
I don't know if he's the leader, Phoenix. Maybe he might be a lizard person. Maybe one of the hybrids that Ultra Spiritual Life JP talked about, but I don't know. Anyway, yeah, it's sad news for people still running Chrome on XP.
Well, speaking of upgrading and security issues and things of that nature, if maybe Google will finally be the reason why people dump XP. That'd be interesting.
If that's all that's been holding them on there, I don't want to give up my XP. I can still use Gmail.
Can't use just nearly anything else, but yeah.
Why should I upgrade? Well, I had a couple more things on the whole radio side of things. NPR released a guide for audio producers, a fairly in-depth guide. I thought it was pretty interesting. Might want to take a look over. And then also, I came across a nice article about giving you an introduction to software-defined radio, fairly in depth as well. And then something else really nice is a way to get rid of the DC spike in GNU radio. And that's basically when you have your SDRs have to be hooked up through USB, and USB is using DC power, and that causes a spike to appear. So you kind of have to offset what you're listening to so you're not listening on that spike. Anyway, there might be a way to remove that, or at least minimize it a whole lot. So I thought that was pretty cool. And that one was specifically aimed at the HackRF, but you can use it for other modules. And speaking of the Google stuff, it looks like you can now enforce two-step verification for the GSuite. So I believe this, if I read it right, Google announced it's going to give the IT administrators the option to enforce U2F security key authentication, so a company's employees and users of the GSuite can only authenticate via the security key. This configuration allows for maximum security level that can be enabled by the U2F two-factor authentication. So where previously you could use a combination of U2F and backup keys with access codes and mobile phones and all that crap, now you can have a setting so that you can force people to do it. And if we do that, Michael's going to have to get a new YubiKey because he threw his away. Good news is, Michael, that the U2F ones are only like $18 if you get the YubiKey version. You can get them as low as $5 though.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that. Anyway, so anyway, I had talked about this previously. I just wanted to do a follow-up story on this. It looks like those LG 5K monitors that had the issues being next to routers, it looks like they've completely admitted to that, and they are redesigning the next shipment so that they will have improved shielding to avoid this problem. So I'm glad.
What about people that have had it before?
They didn't say anything about that. I guess they're kind of stuck moving the router farther away, or they'll have to buy a new 5K monitor, I suppose. Not very good for those users, but hopefully it didn't affect. It may not. Well, I guess it did affect a lot of people. The other thing is that looks like I would have thought that they would have already had a feature like this, but it looks like it's now even easier to add storage to your PS4. My father has a PS4, and not that he's running out of storage, but you can now apparently attach a USB 3 hard drive to it, and that's all it takes. You don't have to actually do the internal hard drive replacement like was previously necessary. It's fairly easy to do that, from what I understand. I don't have one, but it's a good point. I'm glad they added that.
Yeah, couldn't you do that on the Xbox since like the Xbox came out?
I don't really know. Never really had the need.
Anyway, they all got hard drives in them. You could just open them up, swap them out.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, Phoenix, we're not. I thought GSuite was the same thing as Google Apps, but apparently it's not. Apparently it's like a stripped down, crappy version of Google Apps.
It's just another name change.
Is it a name change?
Mm-hmm.
So it is Google Apps?
Yeah, I got an email about it a while back. They're changing their name again.
Oh,
it's not. Yeah, it's. I don't. I mean, it's nice that they have that, but
this is
but
now
that's the
known
same.
as this instead. We want to confuse people less.
But they've already had U2F authentication for that.
yeah, but it was option. So like you could have that, and it still required you to add your mobile phone as a backup device. So your mobile phone gets compromised, your system's still compromised. It allows it so that you can make it so that it only accepts U2F.
Gotcha.
security.
Okay. I thought this was. I just noticed this. I don't know. This would be useful for developers like ourselves, possibly. I don't know, but it's a Git virtual file system that Microsoft is putting out.
Fun.
I guess it's, and it was supposed to have been done to allow for scaling. So the Git client apparently was never designed to work with repos with 3.5. They quote 3.5 million files and over 270 gigabytes, and that it's checking out in situations.
Large app.
Yeah, it's checking out and cloning can take an incredible amount of time in scenarios like that. So their solution is this GVFS, and it should be able to handle repos of any size. It virtualizes the file system beneath the repo and makes it appear as though all your files in the repo are present, but in reality only downloads a file the first time it is opened, and that was a quote. And it does better checking against the repo to avoid unnecessary activity. And because they're doing it on a file system level, nothing apparently has to change.
Is this only if you're using the Visual Studio's GitHub integration?
I'm not sure.
Because I don't use that.
I'm not sure.
Well, anyway, more importantly, an entire town in Ohio got shut down because of ransomware.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Licking County government offices.
Licking, huh?
Yeah, Licking County. Were completely shut down due to ransomware. That includes 911 dispatch.
I take so it does it includes 911 dispatch, but only in the sense that they were unable to use their computers, so they could still use paper and pen and their actual phones to answer the call. No, but they actually were able to use. They had backup phones. They just didn't have the internal phone system. The phones from the outside so that people could call in were still available. Now, of course, I'm sure that not having a computer and not having to write down things by hand and communicate things differently as a result of that would probably be a big deal for them, I'm sure. So don't get me wrong, it's just, I'm sure, a big impact, but it didn't completely shut down the 911 system.
The auditor, the county auditor, Mike Smith, said that apparently their clock still works, though. So, bright side of it.
It's always a Mike Smith.
Yeah, so backup. I'm not sure if you heard me there. Backup. It's very important.
Yes.
But speaking of cracking, Hack5's recent article or recent episode was on Hashcat, and I believe they were talking with the developer. I didn't get a chance to really watch it that much, and it started getting quite technical pretty fast, so I didn't want to pay attention to it only halfway. So I'll go ahead and post it out there for everyone else to check out if they want to watch it. It did look pretty interesting, and we've done an episode on Hashcat and password cracking. So
I would like to review that just to see. I'm not so sure we were really pushing its ability for performance on our systems, and I want to see.
Dude, that guy has 60 GPUs in one system.
Oh, okay. So there's no way I could ever even approach. Okay, so all right.
60 GPUs. That's insane.
Not sure how he's accomplishing that, but the physical connectivity of that. But I guess it can be done with PCI Express switches and external enclosures.
That's $12,000 for $200 a pop GPUs.
But I bet he can crack passwords pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Let's see. Super Bowl, sports ball. Okay, I'm not sure. Is that about gambling?
Oh,
Ian?
sounds like a fun
Uh,
something I know
so
nothing.
it's about bandwidth. So let's see. They have a lot of moving parts to keep track of. Let's see. 5 miles of fiber optic cable, 1,200 access points, 70,000 people. Many a thousand will walk in with connected devices, 70 cameras filming and broadcasting around the stadium, more than 10 terabytes of data transmitted over their Wi-Fi network. So yeah, if you ever had to set up something for maybe a conference room or hall or something of that nature to cover data needs, Wi-Fi needs, that's
Don't
probably,
complain, because
yeah, it can get
you
worse.
could have to deal with this.
It could get worse. So I wanted to follow up on our naked die.
Ew,
Talks that
naked guy.
yeah. So anyway,
No, naked guys, please.
no, naked die. So basically, we talked about the other day, or was it yesterday or the day before, using delidding tools to basically remove the integrated heat spreader and attach a cooling device directly to the surface, or well, excuse me, I take that back. Detaching the heating, the integrated heat spreader, replacing the thermal interface for material and putting it back. It's not recommended to attach a cooling device directly to the chip, because the edges of it could crack if the pressure is even remotely uneven across the surface of it. So be very, very careful with that. However, the previous testing apparently was not done with a water block, and so this is basically going to show you how to do the installation of that, and use a water block to cool it. So you might want to take a look if that extreme type of overclocking is something you're interested in. And this is using the same i5 7600 that we talked about the other day as well.
Cool. Well, have you ever heard of SnowLab? That place is pretty cool.
Yeah, so sure enough, he's putting it directly on the surface. I do not think he's actually putting the lid back on. Go figure. Sorry.
Michael, you would be interested in this place. Have you heard of it? SnowLab? If not, I highly recommend watching that motherboard video. It's a laboratory 2 kilometers under the ground, and you have to go down a mine shaft elevator. Then you have to hike to where the lab is, and then you have to be completely washed down. All the stuff you bring with you has to be washed down and wiped down and removed.
Oh, this is for
take all your shower and all that stuff, and then you can go in there, and the whole place is for researching dark matter and
neutrinos.
Yeah.
So yeah, so basically weakly interacting particles. So we're bombarded with particles all the time, and most of them just pass through us without ever colliding with a single atom inside of us. Okay, now think about that. That's pretty amazing in and of itself. But in order to do some tests, they need to be able to detect these particles. And they have to resort to putting them underground, like Brantley's explaining. They also have to provide materials or ways to possibly concentrate their ability to detect them. And oftentimes they fill them up with special types of water, to dense types of water, heavy water sometimes, I think, to help ensure or increase the likelihood of a collision. And even then, they can go years undetecting and still only come away with maybe a couple of hits. So it's an incredibly difficult problem. But that's the reason why the controls are the way they are in these places. They need to shield all like other rays that are coming through, first of all, which is part of the reason for being so far underground. And then they have to set up elaborate detectors, the most sensitive detectors that they can for this purpose. And
the most interesting thing about it, though, is that they maintain it as a Class 2000 clean room.
That's pretty high up there. Yeah, that's right up
So,
there with
like,
microprocessor production, isn't it?
yeah, it's like extremely, extremely clean. It's like $1 billion worth of equipment and piping and all kinds of stuff went in there. Every single piece of it had to be washed and wiped down before entering that area. It's insane. But it is pretty cool. If you watch that video, they show you some of the things they do about it. And something interesting towards the end, they were talking about they were trying to work out some issues about working at that depth of ground because there's a lot more pressure down there, and seeing if that affected how you thought and were able to do things, especially over prolonged periods of time. So I thought it was a pretty cool video. Highly recommend it. Then what was this one? No, that was okay. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, Johnny sent me a couple links. Apparently, LibreOffice 5.3 upgrade brings open source Office suite.
Oh, yeah, I actually saw this a day or two ago, and I forgot to mention it. My sincere apologies, because one of the things that I thought was so great is they made a pretty significant overhaul to the interface, from what I understand, and they now have a more modern Office like a ribbon concept across it, which I think had been lacking previously. So people who are very obviously familiar with or comfortable with Microsoft Office probably, since the ribbon has come about, have probably become used to it and familiar with it, and kind of miss it when it's not there, I suppose, now, or might even think it's archaic if it's not there, although I don't necessarily agree. It's just a different type of user interface. It's not necessarily better just by having a ribbon. However, it's good to see their very active development, and really you can't truly go open source if you don't want to, if you want to cut your licensing costs.
And then also Metasploit is now targeting IoT devices. We've talked about Metasploit as well here. But yeah, so now it's targeting IoT devices as well for security penetration.
Now, okay, so when they say IoT devices, remember there's an IoT edition of Windows, and there's just IoT devices in general.
Well, the IoT edition of Windows is designed to run in IoT devices.
Yeah, but I just want to, as far as the is this
basically the things that the botnets form is what it's targeting.
Yeah.
So it's taking in on that. Phoenix also had a bunch of other links that we skipped over here. So US and Kickass torrents are battling it out in courts. We'll see how that goes, and see if just hosting a link to somewhere is the same as hosting the content. And he also has a UEFI booting a Windows installer with a large installed WIM file using easy to boot. So always some good stuff from that. 0-day Windows security flaws could crash systems and cause BOSDs. I think this is related to that SMS or SBS, SMB. Yeah, here's a GHacks article on that same thing, I believe. And I talked about that one. Then, oh, that was the wrong link, he said. This was the link. Dang it. I should have read further, Phoenix. Sorry. Did you already correct that? No. Oh, and Nick has a update. Nick, do you want to yell it out there? No, he just left.
It looks like there's been some, we've talked about it a little bit previously on some earlier shows this week, but MCSoft had updated their A2CMD. They, I think, renamed it, and they also made some changes that affect its ability to be automated by D7 too, and I believe Nick seems to have addressed that. And if anybody depends upon that, please make sure you update to the newest default apps. Do you have anything more to say, Brantley? I don't know exactly what he did, so.
No, that's what I was going to ask, is I was going to see what he went through and did. I guess we'll have to take a look at it. But PhilThex had actually brought that up to our attention, so hopefully he watches this later and sees that as well, or sees the default app updates. Looks like Avast has also released 3 new decryptor tools for Hidden Tear, Jigsaw, and Stampedo. It's another link Phoenix posted. And then he also had Windows 10 devices still exposed to DMA attacks that can steal BitLocker keys. And I don't think that was related to this other one I saw about how Windows DRM files can decloak Tor browser users. I don't think that's related, but interesting as well. And here's a more in-depth article on that as well. But I thought those were interesting. Close those out.
I did want to throw out there about that update, since you did ask me and I walked away.
Yeah. What
throw out there about that update, that if you happen to like batch files, you might want to look into this one, or just interested or whatever.
So you did end up having to do a batch file to extract and manipulate and deal with?
I didn't have to, but I did it that way so that I didn't have to make more than one custom app to chain for this update, because since it's an update to an existing app, it probably needs to work as one app, you know.
Yeah.
So if someone's using this exact app, so I did use some batch file tricks to keep it from being an issue and making multiple apps, but it wasn't required to do, because there was no reason for, the functionality wasn't there. It wasn't required to do. It was just required to do as in to make one
app. Yeah.
To make it in one app. Your installer, they changed their the compressed thing, download package. They went from a zip file to an exe, you know.
And it wouldn't extract with the D72 extraction methods.
You know why? Do you know what that executable is? Just because I know this is on your brain, because you fiddle with it and you messed with it.
What was it?
That is a nullsoft installer. Nullsoft, like Winamp. It's a nullsoft installer. And you can tell because it actually does, and you actually can use it with the silent extraction. And there's only one way to do it with a nullsoft, and that's a capital. It's like /capital S. It has to be a capital S. That's how I know it's a nullsoft. But no silent, no lowercase s, no none of that. But it works like that. So then I have it extract automatically. I actually use the batch file to query the registry for the location of D7. Completely unnecessary, but I felt like teaching people stuff when I was doing this. You know, I just kind of felt like, let me just monkey around and make a lot of notes for people.
Well, that's cool.
And so that's kind of what I did with this apps update. So it's almost like a batch file lesson, and a lesson on how to work with D72 manipulation, as much as it is a
app update.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, that's awesome. So definitely check out that default app update. Looks like there's a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah. I kept finding myself going, when I was making the app, I kept finding myself going, hey, I could just change this one thing in the alpha of D72X and ... And then, oh, I need this. Oh, I could, let me just get this stupid app out first, fixed, and then I'll come back to it, So that's why it took a few days. And all the personal garbage ruining my life right now. But, well,
well, Phoenix had a question in the chat there. He's looking at getting a smartwatch. He's got an Android phone and wanted some suggestions. I've had the smartwatch, Sony S3 smartwatch, the Sony smartwatch 3 for almost 2 years now, and I absolutely love it. It's been one of the most highly reclaimed smartwatches, even to this day. And they're supposed to be coming out with a new version sometime this year. So you might want to wait on getting a smartwatch and see what because there's Android Wear 2.0, which just released, and they're going to be releasing new smartwatches for it. So you might want to watch out for those, although either way, I would wait for it because that means all these old smartwatches are also going to be lower in price. But Nick has a smartwatch. I don't remember exactly which. You have the Fossil one, Nick?
Oh, heck no. The Fossil, the Founder or something. Those are the ones I wanted because they had the awesome wristbands and like style, like Proctor was talking about with tech, and they're just phenomenally awesome looking to me. But no, I can't afford that crap. I have the Asus ZenWatch too.
Yeah, the ZenWatch too.
Yeah.
I mean, not any problems with that one either. That one was a fairly good
Nothing but problems.
Really?
Yeah, it's barely a watch, much less a smart one.
Well, don't go for that one then.
It's as dumb as they come. But the problem is not actually Asus. The problem is Android and the connection between it and the phone and everything else. The problem is kind of like what having the watch paired to the phone does. I have the strong suspicion when it needs to pair with my truck stereo instead. The problem becomes when your Wi-Fi password is too complicated and it actually won't accept it. And, it's like, well, it took them a year. I never did change it. They did fix it where it works with the wireless now in the house, but actually, I don't even know if it works. I haven't even tested it, but it says now it accepts the password to my wireless network after the most recent update, which was a week or two ago, a couple weeks ago. Yeah, and I had it for a year. Okay, Bud, coming. I had it for a year, and now how does it take them this long to update it to figure out the wireless password?
I don't know. Mine hasn't had that.
I'm sorry, I use special characters. Wah.
Mine hadn't had that kind of issue, so I would suggest waiting for the new line to come out. Moto says they're getting out of it, so don't go with one of them. Johnny has the Moto 360, and the battery life is terrible on it. The second revision is supposed to be a little bit better, but I never really enjoyed how their aesthetics looked for it. But if you look at the reviews for the Sony Smartwatch 3, you'll almost see nothing but good things said about it. I have absolutely loved it. It doesn't have a heart rate monitor on it, but that's because I don't need it. It's one of the few watches that has GPS built into it. And I've never had any issues with the Wi-Fi connection or the Bluetooth connection and having my phone connect to other devices and various things. So I really love it. I'm very excited that they have announced that they're going to come out with a new one after Android Wear 2 comes out. And then also LG is working directly with Google on kind of a Nexus-like smartwatch. So you might want to look into that as well. Of course, if you're going with one of those new ones, you're going to be looking at $350 in price. But if you wait until then, these type of watches should be much, much cheaper. Let me see how much Sony Smartwatch 3 is. And Glenn says the Gear 2 is terrible. I forget which one Johnny had. Johnny had one of the Gear ones, Gear Slim or Gear Fit or something.
Gear Fit.
And that wasn't as good either. Let me see what the Smartwatch 3 is looking like right now. Shopping. Yeah, so you can get the Smartwatch 3 for about $150 right now. So half of the price that I paid for it almost 2 years ago. But it has been a great watch for me. I've loved it. Haven't had any issues with it. It doesn't have a speaker on it, so it's missing some of the newer features that are going to come with it. But if you wait until the new one comes out, which let's see if they got an update about it. Whatever MWC 2017 is when they're going to release or show it off. So, what is MWC 2017?
Macworld?
No, Mobile World Congress.
Okay.
And that's going to happen February 26th, it looks like. So, end of this month, probably start looking around then. It'll work. And yeah, that's pretty much what they're all for. You said you had a Fitbit Alta. He gets text, caller ID, and calendar reminders on his, plus fitness tracker. And Fitbit did just buy out the thing that basically started all the smartwatch fad for everyone, which was, what was that company called? They started off on
Talking about Under Armour.
the Kickstarter.
Bitly? No.
Oh.
What's it called? G something.
Pebble. That was it. Yeah. They bought out Pebble and are cutting all their support for them. So yeah, Pebble. So I expect to see Fitbit actually improve a whole lot in the smartwatch category, and they have been probably the best on fitness trackers. So if you like fitness trackers, you might want to wait and see what they come out away with all their recent purchases. They've bought a lot of stuff, actually, not just Pebble, but something else too, and did the same thing. But I would say hold off, Phoenix. Maybe wait until about April or so. You'll probably get a good idea about the market, and things should be out, because if they're just announcing it at the Mobile World Congress, it's not going to be available for purchase probably right then. But I would say let's see what Sony has to offer, what Google and LG are going to do together, and what Fitbit's going to do. You might want to take a look and wait around. So. A Fitbit Blaze is a real smartwatch, and they have been good. People have liked Fitbits a whole lot. So, but like I said, I've enjoyed my smartwatch for quite some time now. So.
Jay just got one of them Fitbits for Christmas, and you know, it's just so funny because we talked about it before, and it does things, like the smartwatch would do, Google Fit, and all that junk.
Yeah.
So she's like, "Oh, look what I can do," and I was like, "Yeah, I remember when I was looking at that, for myself. I just don't care anymore, I'd rather have like the rest of the smartwatch functionality than that." But when she wasn't wearing it, when she didn't wear it when she was asleep. And I was like, "Baby, that's kind of I think that's why they came out with those, honestly."
Yeah, it does do sleep
sleep
tracking really good.
Yeah, I was like, I think that's kind of why they came out with those, and if not, that's why they continue to sell them or something. I don't know. And she was like, "Well, okay," and I don't know. She started wearing it when she was asleep, but she was still taking off all the time. She'd get in bed, like she would take it off. She'd be like, "Oh, I did 5,000 steps today. I did 8,000 steps today." And I was like, "Yeah, just think if you'd have left that on while we made love, because you took it off already." I mean, it's like what I.
Five to 8,000 steps is actually like an average day of any.
Oh, I know, but when you have a hard time breaking 100, okay, like me, yeah, it means yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, I was about to say like it's an average day of sitting at home here, but I was like, no, I only average about 1,000 steps a day when I'm just sitting here working all day. But average like walking and dealing with a day is about 5 to 10,000 steps. A good distance of walking around is like 16 to 20,000 steps, which I've done with Ingress a couple times.
Man, you're blowing my mind because I feel like a day out on the town is 3,000 steps. From remembering my usage and things, like if I was going to break like 3,000 steps, I had, or even approach it, I had to be specifically intending to walk for exercise.
Yeah. Glenn says he sees it as an achievement hitting 5,000 for the week.
There you go.
But I was also going to say the reason why Fitbit is actually selling so well from what I've seen is the competition they add into it. Because they let you hook up with friends and like fight and race against friends for steps and elevations and various crap like that, and that's what really hooks people on it. That's what is getting Johnny hooked on it. She doesn't even have one yet, but she knows other people that have them, and they want to fight her with it. Like Lisa has one and wants Johnny to get one just so they can battle it out on who takes more steps.
Well, Jade up with these people then too, because
yeah.
Well, I know she's hooked up with a couple of people, and come to think of it, I didn't even think about that. But you're right. I didn't even think about that. But
I'm super competitive.
But why do you still need a specially designed watch just for that? Why can't you just use Google Fit on your?
It's not.
Because it doesn't have the social
aspect. Huh?
It's not
but it's your cell phone. You're already on it for the social aspect. You've already got it. Why can't? Why?
Yeah, well, because you got to take screenshots and.
But not all
Fitbits and things.
You wear on your wrist. Yeah, but not all Fitbits are worn on your wrist.
Ian says Google Fit is not as accurate. I can see that, but it's accurate enough for me. It's not as accurate for the competition modes that Fitbit people get into.
I'm going to say if anybody is worried about accuracy at all, why? Why are you not counting?
Well, that's what Johnny was like. Somebody was wearing one on their shirt, and they kept going like this to their shirt. And they're like, man, I've been getting so many steps recently. And it's like, yeah, because your Fitbit's on your shirt right there, and you're looking like you're jogging a marathon.
That stupid watch.
Thank you for not including that person's name.
Stupid watch phone that Wyatt has I told y'all about?
Yeah, we saw, and he thought I was going to steal it, even though my watch is way nicer.
I know, and I said that so loud, I'm sure he's heard me downstairs going down. My watch phone's not stupid. I know your watch phone's not stupid, boy. It's not a smart watch, but it's it's got a phone on it, and it can do a few things. Well, one of the things his watch does is has a game on it where you jump up and down, and like you're supposed to jump up and down, and it's got the competition thing, just like that. But it's funny because he'll just go, I know what that looks like, right? But he does it anyway all the time with the watch. Yeah, and it's like, oh, he's like, I just jumped up and down 10,000 times. I'm like, yeah. Yeah, it's like, yeah.
Boy, you better calm down. You're going to wear yourself raw jumping up and down that much.
Oh, gosh.
I'm sure.
No, that's horrible.
All right. Well, I think that is about as good a place as any to wrap up for the day. It has been a finally Friday, and thanks everyone for joining us and participating. Always a pleasure seeing you all here and having you talk. Let us know if you have any issues or questions or recommendations for the CryptoPrevent update. Same thing for the MCSoft command line scanner default app update. And check out some of that patch tutoring that Nick threw down in there for you. So otherwise, we will be back Monday morning at 8 a.m. If you have any questions about our products or services, that's what we're here for mainly. So if you'd like to talk to us directly, you can wait till then. Otherwise, you can always contact our support via the various means on our website.